right, everybody, we are going to be live in just a second here. If we are not already, I'm going to take a minute and just double check that, yes, we are good to go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very extended special edition of the Breakthrough Show. My name is Jessica Dugas, host of the show, and I'm so excited that you are here for our special edition today. I have an incredible panel on with me today. You may recognize one of our panelists from the show on the screen in just a moment here. You may recognize a couple people who may have been guests. You may see some new faces. It's going to be a lot of fun today, but we have something really special in store for you, because this is something that's really close to my heart and something that I figured out is a conversation that needs to happen. And that's what we are going to do today, is have a conversation that needs to happen. And the next hour is going to be focused on how we as women are smiling through it. How are we surviving and, more importantly, thriving through our often unseen struggles in life and on social media? I want you to stay tuned today if you're someone who has ever dealt with addiction, illness, chronic pain, diagnosis, prognosis, or the like. And if that's not you, but that's someone that you know, we invite you to click the share button so that more people can benefit from this conversation today. Now, what I want to share with you really quickly before I introduce the ladies that are with me on the show today is that this is going to be a conversation that we're going to allow you to sit in on and be a part of and listen to. Unlike the other shows, the live version on Facebook that you're watching right now, we will not be interacting with the comments. Instead, we will be interacting with those after the show so that we can focus on the topics that we're talking about with each other. But I encourage you, no matter what, to leave comments, leave questions, and we will be sure to get with you guys after the show and answer those and interact with you afterwards and all of that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hit the heart button, hit the share button. If you are listening on one of our podcast platforms, hit the subscribe button and be sure to listen into the show each week. All right, so I want to introduce the incredible women who are on with me today. And first up, I am going to introduce, I'm gonna start with, I think, my friend Liz Wilkins today, because Liz had been a guest on the Breakthrough before. And you guys have heard a little bit about her story, but Liz, if you want to refresh everybody's memory, say hello and tell us, a little bit about you.
Thanks, Jessica. So, hi, I'm Liz, and I'm an alcoholic. I know, I don't look like one, do I? And that's because I'm in recovery. Today I'm celebrating 2,199 days of consecutive sobriety. Whoop, whoop! Super proud of that. I live in England, as you might be able to tell from the accent. This isn't put on. I am, in fact, English. And we've recently moved home. I live with my husband and we have a 14-year-old son who I don't name on social media because I embarrass him with every single thing I do on social media. So he probably isn't listening to this. And I'm also professionally, I'm a marketing consultant, but I'm also the host of a brand new podcast called Today I Am Sober.
Yay. We're so excited to have you back, Liz, and I am so thrilled for your new podcast. Like I'm not going to cry on this show. It's awesome. I'm so proud of you and I'm so excited for you, and thank you for being part of this conversation today. All right, up next, I want to introduce my friend Genevieve Kohn, who it's not letting me unmute you guys, so you'll just have to hit the button. But Genevieve, you'll know her as a panelist on season 3 of The Breakthrough. Jen, refresh everybody's memory. Tell us a little bit more about yourself today.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm so thrilled to be on this special edition of The Breakthrough Show today. I am a season 3 panelist. I also am a mom and wife. I have not small, oh my God, why do I say that? I have 2 teenage sons and a very enthusiastic dog. I also am the co-host of a podcast called Reclaim Your Health for Women. And I also help health and spiritual coaches grow their businesses online. I'm also an author and speaker. So I do a bunch of things because I just can't stop being passionate about life and about what I do. And I also have been sober for a very long time, been sober for over 23 years. So I share the sobriety path with my new friend Liz here. I also have been living with an MS diagnosis since 2002.
Awesome. Well, thank
Did
you
I cover
for
everything?
sharing. Yeah, yes, I think so. Thank you for
Great.
sharing all of that. And I'm glad that you were able to jump into this conversation today because you know, we get to break down so little as panelists on the main show of what we're actually, you know, dealing with in our own lives. We really try to focus on our guests. So I love that you're here to have this discussion with us today, Jen.
Yes, I'm really glad to be here too.
Awesome. Up next on the show, I want to introduce a new face today, Grim. Grim is someone that I met in the online world, and without Grim, the Breakthrough nor Jessica Dugas would have a website because Grim is awesome at what she does. And so, Grim, you want to share a little bit about you and what you're dealing with and what you do for work?
Yes. So, of course, Grim is not my real name. My real name is April, but nobody calls me that. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, so ducking and dodging them bullets. I am the owner of Easy Peasy website. Some people call it EPW. I call them EPW a lot. I help teach entrepreneurs how to build their own websites. I have a website kit that I'm working on. I am a mother of 3 teenagers. One of them doesn't even live here anymore. I'm a mother of 5 if you count my husband and my mother-in-law, who I live with now, because the mother-in-law is blind and one-legged. So it's like having a new child in the house. I have a gastrointestinal disease called diverticulitis. I have a lot of gastrointestinal issues all the way from GERD to Crohn's to the whole 9 yards. So I deal with a lot of crap every day, but I wanted to be on here because I like the idea of us all talking about it. I think everybody goes through something, and I think it's great that we get to discuss it so that people don't feel alone. On the addiction front, I've never said this publicly before. I had an addiction issue before I had kids. So it was before, it's been over 20 years. Getting pregnant after they told me I'd never have kids is basically what, that was it.
We love how
I
that
said, no, I'm pregnant, I have responsibility, and I just quit. And I know that not everybody can do that. So I commend those of you who are able to quit your issues without something dramatic making it happen.
Awesome. Well, I am so glad that you had the opportunity to come on today, Grim, and share a little bit about your story because it's so outside of the box of, you know, what you typically share on social media and do for work and all of that. So thank you for stepping outside your comfort zone and being on to have this conversation.
I'm nervous, can you tell?
Yeah. You're doing great. You're doing great. And you're wearing the hat. So, I mean, it just, you know. All right, so I want to bring on my next friend today, who's actually the person I have known the absolute longest on the show today. She's never been on the Breakthrough before, but Liz and I, or Beth and I, used to sit, you know, next to each other in homeroom in freshman year of high school. And we also share a birthday, which is something super fun. And we want to collectively give a little shout out to our other triplet, Sarah, who might watch later. So hi, Sarah. And so Beth, I'm so like nostalgic and happy that you're here right now. So share a little bit with everybody about yourself.
Sure. My name is Beth DeFrancis. I'm in Connecticut right now. I just recently moved from California. I am a mother of an 8-year-old son, Blake, and if you want to count my husband as a kid too, then I have 2 kids, and then I have one little fur baby at home too as well. So I have a dog too as well. I teach students who have special needs in the classroom, so a wide variety of disabilities. A little bit about me and my diagnosis. I went through happened in 2012. I just had my son. He was about 6 months old, and I had noticed a little lump on my throat. Needless to say, I got it checked out and it turned into thyroid cancer. So I am now a thyroid cancer survivor since 2012. So I'm happy to be here. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm just from that, I've developed like another disease too as well that went from my surgery. It's called, a lot of people don't know about it. It's one of those rare diseases, and I'm the 0.25725%. I don't know the statistic, but it's called hypoparathyroidism. And so basically you have hypoparathyroids, right, or parathyroid glands right on your thyroid. So I no longer have a thyroid, and the glands that I do have, they're just not doing their job. They're not regulating all the calcium and the vitamin D and all that fun stuff that your body needs to regulate so that, you know, you don't go into complete like muscle contractions and all that fun stuff. So
Fun times.
good
Fun
time. Yeah, good time. So that's it. But I'm here, I'm representing, and I'm so excited to be here on your show and meet this fabulous woman.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today, Beth. And I know that you're going to add so much to this conversation. And Beth and I talked recently, and I feel like it's one of those weird things when you've known somebody forever and ever and ever, and then it feels like no time has passed when you have a conversation. It's so strange.
Pick up where you left off.
Yeah. So up next on the show today, last but certainly not least, we have my friend Laura Mazzotta, who is in a similar realm as me and what we do for work. But Laura is also a therapist, which is fun times as well. Laura, tell everybody about yourself and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be with all of you. My name is Laura Mazzotta, and I am an Akashic therapist. I have a private therapy practice locally. I live in New York, about an hour north of New York City. And I started my health journey and my spiritual awakening, I would say, about 3 years ago when I was hospitalized with sepsis. And they had been watching me for a while for an immunodeficiency. And then when I got hit with that, they did a lot more specific testing. And I've been diagnosed with CVID, which stands for a common variable immunodeficiency. So I get plasma infusions every other week. And I also have autonomic neuropathy, which tends to run in cycles. And they're not sure whether that was damage from the sepsis, but it's also a byproduct of the immunodeficiency. So I have, after exhausting a lot of Western medicine approaches, I have explored a lot of alternative healing modalities and really landed in the most effective, in my experience, as the Akashic Records. Mm-hmm. So I've incorporated that into my work as a therapist, and I help women who are struggling with negativity, depression, anxiety, illness, or pain to really create their own wellness plan and use these resources within to be able to heal themselves and get to a better quality of life. And I have 3 kiddos and a husband, and my kids are 4, 9, and almost 12. So
awesome.
Yep.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad that you're I'm so glad that you're able to join us today, Laura. And Laura was actually supposed to be on our regular edition of The Breakthrough yesterday. And I'm glad that we've been kind of shifting things up on the show here, because yesterday was not a fun day for me. And so it worked out really well that she's on today. So thank you so much for being on with us today, Laura. For everybody that may be new to me, my name is Jessica Dugas. I am the host, creator, and producer of The Breakthrough Show. I'm an intuitive mentor helping women to live with less stress and more joy. I currently reside in Alabama, where I'm a wife. I'm a homeschooling mom of 6 children, ranging in age from 3 to 18. I won't go down the list for you. We'll be here all day. And, and I also have dealt with a lifetime of chronic illness and addiction, and currently dealing with an undiagnosed something that I'm just sort of navigating as the moments go by, which I think many of us here, even before we had our diagnosis, we could relate to that sort of floating along. We're not sure what's going on right now, but we'll figure it out eventually. So this conversation is really close to my heart because, and I knew that it needed to happen because up until a couple of months ago, I had been able to pretty successfully go along with doing my lives, having my show, coming on live and not having any issues. And then about a month and a half ago, we were mid-episode of the breakthrough, and I started having symptoms in the middle of the episode. And while I was able to just deal with it, and no one knew, until I said something. In fact, Jen and I talked about it after the show. No one knew what I was dealing with in the middle of the show. Thankfully, I get to push the button and not be on camera sometimes. And so I was able to kind of keep things on the down low over here. But it was a wake-up call for me that and that I needed to go further with what I was doing with my own healthcare, that we needed to have a conversation about this, that I needed to talk to my show people about this. And I realized that there are so many people like all of you that are dealing with this stuff, and no one has any idea. No one has any clue what we're dealing with, what we're going through, unless we verbally say something. I think one of the things that has been most difficult, and I know Jen, your sister, Jocelyn, she was supposed to be here today, but she had to work. And so shout out to Jocelyn, we love you. She just started a Facebook page. Jen, do you want to share with everybody what her Facebook page is called?
Yes, her Facebook page, my sister Jocelyn Michelle, her Facebook page is called Funny You Don't Look Sick. Because very often we have all these symptoms and we could look, in the face and the way we're getting around, we can look perfectly fine. But so it's almost as if people don't believe us. Fortunately, I've come to realize that it doesn't really matter what other people think. What really matters is how we're taking care of ourselves. So I would definitely recommend that Facebook page. It's called Funny You Don't Look Sick.
Yeah, and I think that Liz, has that been your experience as well with dealing with alcoholism, that it's not something that's seen per se? Like, is that something that you dealt with before your recovery that people didn't know, or how did you sort of navigate that? You need to unmute.
Sorry, talking to myself. Do that all the time. It's not unusual. My drinking wasn't obvious to the outside world. Most of my drinking was very boring. It was very lonely, and it was mainly at home. In fact, it was mostly in my back garden underneath a gazebo.
So it's not what we see on the movies, like you weren't like dancing on the bar at like Coyote Ugly or something like that.
Oh God, those days had long gone. And actually I didn't, when I went out, and I went out with work a lot because of what I did professionally and do professionally, I would have strategies in place to not get absolutely off my face, because I knew what was going to happen to me, and it could be career limiting. And as the main breadwinner in our household, I could not afford to lose my job. So towards the end of my drinking, I actually extricated myself from lots of work activities. I was fortunate I had a team, so I would send them instead of me, or I would leave early and I would carry on drinking when I got home, because I knew once I started I couldn't stop, but I chose where I stopped, and I would kind of control it for a couple of hours during a work event and then carry on once I got home. So I've only recently come out as being a recovering alcoholic to all of, publicly. And most of the people I worked with at that time had no idea I had a drink problem, because I hid it so well.
I think even though some of us on here may not have dealt with the addiction side of things, we can relate to that in that we do what we can to put a smile on our face, to show up as our best self, and not always show, you know, how badly we feel in that moment. And so I feel like that's a common thread, no matter what any of us have dealt with on here. Beth, you you know, were you working and all of that at the time that you were dealing with your diagnosis, or were you home? You said you had just had Blake. So what was your life like then, and how what happened when you like had to show up?
Right. No, I mean, I was in transition. I call it the transition period in my life. You know, you know, you just have a child, you're figuring out the dynamics of the home and your role, like as a, not only now a wife, but like a mother. I've
Yeah.
been trusted to care for this human life, you know, 24/7 now. It's no longer about myself. And so I think that alone, that role was a little bit frightening. And especially when, you know, I remember where it was. I was on the bike trail. I was substitute teaching and whatnot. So I had days off in between. So when my mother-in-law could watch Blake, I would go into the classroom and substitute teach. I didn't have my own classroom per se yet, but I was substitute teaching, working, taking care of him. And I just remember that phone call, and you know, it was like a hallmark moment. I was on the trail in California, you know, the hills were off in the distance, the canyon, and the doctor just basically said, you have papillary thyroid cancer. And I broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend was there. She had two twins, and I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
So I think in that time, I just went into okay, well, I'm a mother, and I have this life that's in, you know, right now in front of me in this stroller, and I have this long journey ahead of me. And as I'm looking at the trail, and we need to figure this out, you know, and I think it was then and there that, okay, well, you know, we got to take the next step. What's the next step? What's the next step? I don't even have time right now to like, even like, I guess, really absorb everything that's going on. I just have to act because I have a life that I need to take care of in front of me right now. So.
Laura, you and I have talked about this quite a bit, about what role our children have played in this stuff that we're trying to navigate. I think some days I do the same, where I look at my kids and go, this is, you know, this is why I'm waking up and pushing on and doing what I need to do and not just giving up. And then, Laura, do you want to share a little bit about what that looks like for you? How have your kids played a role in this? And also, has it done anything? Because you and I have talked about anxiety that it's caused and things like that. What does that look like for you?
So I think it's shifted multiple times since I got sick. I mean, when I first got sick, it was a lot of protecting them. You know, my husband swooped in and kind of took over, and they didn't know all the details of the severity of what was going on, but they just knew mommy was sick, you know? Yeah. And I had a lot of guilt at the time because there was a lot of, well, I mean, I couldn't walk for about 3 months after I first got sepsis. And so it was a lot of television and, you know, a lot of feeling like I want to do things. And every time they would come up to me and ask me to play, it was, no, I can't play. No, I can't play. So in a way it was, I mean, I felt very guilty, but I also saw the benefit that it could provide for them because a couple things. One, it encouraged them to be more independent and creative, right? And to kind of say, I gotta do me right now, right? I gotta do something because mom can't, right? And teaching them what families do for one another when somebody's sick or when somebody's in need. We all have to pull together. We all have to help each other, and helping them also just learn empathy, like understanding how somebody else is feeling, and that they can not only take care of themselves in certain ways, like we started having them make their lunches by themselves in the morning, right? Because mornings were really hard for me. They learned how to make their own breakfasts, you know? And so they have areas of independence that I probably would have said, oh no, I'll do that for you, baby. It's okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and although that's, you know, feels good for me, is it in their best interest? I don't know that it is, you know?
Right.
So I also think that was one of my big lessons with getting sick was like, I'm a yes woman. Like you're a patient, you're a potential patient and you call me and you say, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. I'm like, yes, I don't have any room in my calendar and I don't have time to sleep, but absolutely I'll help you. You know, I'm the same thing with the kids. And I was like the bleeding heart social worker, you know, and I needed to just be able to say, no, like, no. It was the first time in my life that I had a hard no.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. I felt that hard no the last the last time someone asked me, because I always get when someone hears about how many children I'm going to have or how many children I have, the first question they always ask me is, are you done? Are you going to have more? And so I've really, like, I've always sort of floated along as, listen, so 3 of my, like Grim was talking about, 3 of my kids, I was told I wasn't going to have any. So I'm at the mercy of whatever's happening right now. But lately it's literally like, if someone asks me, I'm like, no, we're done. Nope. No, I can't, because I have felt very similar that in that same space of like, I've got to focus on myself. And I also, how you were talking about having the guilt, I've had the same thing with mine, where I felt like, at first, like I'm having to ask, you know, my older ones to cook dinner, or, you know, to help with the little ones more than I would if I was well. And it's still something I struggle with every day. Like sometimes I have that little, you know, twinge when my oldest is making dinner and I'm like, I wish I was the one doing it. I wish I was the one in there, you know, making the sauce the way that my granny made the sauce, and you know, that kind of thing. And it depends on the day. I agree with you that I feel like it sort of goes in phases and cycles and different emotions come up. Grim, I know that your kids are older teenagers, and were you dealing with any of this kind of stuff with them when they were younger, and you were dealing with, you know, the things that you deal with, or have they, because your kids are really independent too, have you found any of this stuff with them?
Yeah, my kids, I've always, like what you said, you had to learn to do that when you got sick. No, I was always for that. Just go do it. You do it. It wasn't because I was sick. It was because I was raised by my aunt and my grandmother for the most part when I was younger, and that was the thing there. You did your part. Everybody did their part. It was that older generation way of, you know, doing things. And so, you know, everybody did their part. So by the time I went back to living with my parents, you know, I was independent. I wanted my kids to be independent. So yes, they've always been, you know, you got to learn how to cook. You got to learn how to clean. If you're old enough to drag it out, you're old enough to put it up, you know, that sort of thing. 2 years old, you drag it out. Okay, come on, let's learn where it goes to put it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still, you know, my youngest is 14. She still don't put it up. So some of them you can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink. So
that's right. I wanted to ask you too, though, Grim, about you know, taking on clients, because Laura was talking about sort of being, and I can relate to that too, being like the, yes, I'll help you. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel, if my calendar's full, whatever, and I just want to help. You know, I know that you are like that as well. How have you navigated that, like around times that you're not feeling 100%, like when you're dealing with the health stuff?
Sometimes I have to reschedule, and I hate that. That's one of the things I absolutely hate. I hate having to reschedule with somebody, because me sitting on the toilet for our meeting is not going to be fun. You know what I mean, that's the gross reality of what I deal with. Is there are days that's where I'm at all day. So you can't do a live meeting. I can't get in and really work on a website. Well, I can do some stuff on my phone, but it's not something I'm making video tutorials of, or, you know, anything like that from my phone.
Live from Grim's bathroom.
I've had people sometimes that'll just call me and I'm like, you really don't want me to answer right now, you know? and I hate that. I hate having to rearrange things. And that's one of the things I'm working on now, is trying to rearrange my business to where it fits, because they don't know that we just recently moved into a new house, and now my mother-in-law is living with us. And so I'm not just dealing with my disease. She has one leg and she's blind. My husband has back problems, so when he comes home from work, he's not moving. He's laying out flat and he's done for the day. So it's like, I'm broken, but I'm it.
Right. Has any of you guys ever felt that in this process? Like, I'm broken, but I have to, like, I've got to do it anyway. Like, I've got to show up anyway.
I'm it. There's nobody else that's going to. Yeah. So, and I love that my kids are independent, and mine are older. My oldest one is gone, but my 17-year-old, well, he'll be 17 in November. And he does a lot. And I do see sometimes the stress that it puts on him. He'll be snappy with her, but like he gets like his daddy, he's still like a crotchety old man. And he's just snappy at everything, and I can tell it's because he's stressed out. And I'm like, you know what? Dishes can wait. Garbage can wait. Put a box over it so the dog don't get in it. You go lay down, I'm going to lay down. And nobody's going to do shit. That's what it's going to be today.
Yeah.
And we're just all going to take a break. And sometimes we just have to do that in this house. And that's hard, but it's a reality that we've had to come to, that some days, me and Dusty can't do it all. And, if my husband can't, my mother-in-law can't, my youngest is don't know how. That's her thing for everything, So we go, well, forget it. If I'm going to have to sit here and stand over you to do it, that's like me doing it. So we're not doing that today.
Yeah. So, Jen, what's something that maybe goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize with you? What's something that is different than maybe people don't know about? What's difficult for you that people don't see?
I have a feeling I know where you're headed with this, Jessica.
I wasn't really.
Well, I mean, I might as well be out there because I have no reason to hide. I actually am doing this right now from my wheelchair. That's how I get around. So I'm not able to walk independently. I can do a little bit of hobbling if I really needed to. For example, I can stand up fine. I can, transfer from, like, let's say my wheelchair to the couch, or, my wheelchair into the car or whatnot. But yeah, so that's just what I guess a lot of people wouldn't know. And it's just a fact of life. It's where the MS has gotten to.
What's the same question for you, Liz? What's something that people maybe don't know about what you dealt with behind the scenes?
Oh, nothing as dramatic as Jen. Mine's quite dull, actually. I don't. No, it feels really dull. I don't think lots of people realise how much I pray, and that I have a God of my understanding. So I've kept that kind of to myself, and having a faith. And I know we talked about this when I came on the show, but that has been hugely important to me, having a faith that someone else knows what's going on and it's going to be okay. Because on those days when it's not okay and my head's scrambled, or the heaviness and the depression is on me, I need hope and I need faith. And I'm really grateful for that faith in the God of my understanding, to just know that it's going to be okay.
I love that. And I think that that's important. And it doesn't, have to be dramatic or whatever, but it's important because, there are so many times when I can think of that I have literally just fallen to my knees, absolutely sobbing, begging for help, begging for help, begging for, even moments like that in Thanksgiving, that I've made it through another day, or that I've woken up in the morning, like just that. There's so many extreme, what I found with myself, my own journey, is so many extremes of emotions. Like I've never felt so grateful, I've never felt so down, I've never felt so up. Like I feel like a living roller coaster. That's the best way I can describe it. Beth, I know when you were going through all of that stuff, and you were doing teaching and everything else, and you always, even then, like, we just sort of were in passing each other on social media and things like that. And I have even found, even though I have gotten this and I've hated it, like what Jen's sister talks about is, well, you don't look sick, you look like you're all right. Like, Jen's beautiful down there, and we never would know about her wheelchair and things like that. Like, how did you respond to those sort of, did you get those comments? Did you ever respond in any kind of way? Like, how did you deal with that?
Well, I think like just even the diagnosis itself, like basically someone's like, oh, thyroid cancer, oh, that's a good cancer, you just, you take it out, you rip it out, that's a good cancer, you got this, you're good to go.
Oh God.
And so, sometimes you're like, well, yes, well, now I no longer have an organ, and I am solely reliant on this little, this is a candle, but this little pill bottle. And you see all these like complications down below, like, depression, anxiety, weight gain, weight loss, all these things, that now I have to rely on popping a pill every day, because I no longer have the organ that does it for myself.
But it's a good one. You're good.
It's a good one. It's the good thyroid cancer one, but they don't necessarily know that, there's things that come along with that. It's the maintenance of the disease. It's the, every day, I have to say, okay, well, I am a survivor. Like, I am completely exhausted at times. I'm working, I'm taking care of my son, I'm running around. Oh, it's the activities, the after school activities. Then it's like, all right, I gotta feel all sexually active right now. Let's yeah, let's do it. Oh yeah. Woo! I've got the thyroid now, so I'm feeling sexy. Let's do it. I'm like, it's all of that, and then it's the your constant blood tests and your numbers are off. So we're just going to microwave your body, and we're just basically going to give you a pill. You have to seclude yourself, and basically you're going to be radioactive, but you can't be next to your family. You can't be, you got to like eat on paper plates and throw them away, because you're basically radioactive. So it's like secluding myself from my family for 2 weeks, a little bit after my surgery, just to like make sure all of the cancer's gone and not like going into my lungs and other parts of my body. That's the stuff that you don't see. Mm-hmm. The anxiety, I'm like, why am I so irritable? Why are my like toes like converging like this in my shoes? Why is my hand cramping up? Oh, because I got to go pop another pill, or, it's all that stuff, they've got specialty pharmacy now. Actually, there's something that, I inject myself with every day. I used to inject myself with every day, and they recently just took it off the market. Specialty pharmacy, they took it off the market. So all of these poor people who have the hypoparathyroidism now are self-reliant on this medication now that they can't get, because the FDA is taking it off. And so, you have these children they're telling their parents, Mom, you're going to get sick. You don't have your medication. And it's all those little things that,
there's a lot that people don't see. And when you have to show up in the classroom and take all of that, and it's like, okay, you're just gonna have a box outside the classroom, and you're gonna take all this shit that's going on in your head, and you're just gonna put it in the box, and you're gonna go be teacher, and everything's gonna be fine. Same with Laura. Like, you have a you're a therapist, you have a client, you're taking a client, you're just gonna put everything in a box and go do that. And when Grim has a client, and when I come on to do the breakthrough, And I'm like, okay, we're gonna focus on the guests now, and I'm gonna take all this crap that it doesn't matter that I've had a headache for 2 days and that I'm dizzy. Like, I'm literally, as I'm sitting here right now, the screen's going like this. And this is what I've been living with literally every day. We're on a boat right now, people. You didn't know that. We're on a boat. We're going like this at the moment. So that's what,
If
and
we
that's
were on a boat, I would be sick. So I promise you, I'm not on a boat.
Well,
My
I'm the
stomach
one
wouldn't be
that's
able to handle it.
experiencing the boat for you. I'm experiencing the boat for you.
Poor
So
thing.
there's
Yeah.
things that are going on behind the scenes that people just don't realize. Grim, what's something that you want people to know? What's something that, if you could say something to anybody about what it's like to live with or work with a chronic illness, like what would you want people to know that maybe they don't know? Or what would you want them to say to you, as opposed to these things like, it's just your stomach, Grim, you're all right?
I don't know that I want them to say anything to me. I want them to leave me alone and let me deal with it, because I've learned what works for me. And I think that's one of the things. Maybe that's one of the things that kind of irritates me. I love that you have ideas and that your cousin's friend's friend, somebody's girlfriend had it and whatnot. But, I live with it every day, and I've been living with it for long enough to figure out what works for me. And when you have something rare, like Beth has, like diverticulitis is not something that everybody knows what it is. Diverticulosis is when it's not inflamed. Diverticulitis is what it is. And for those who don't know what it is, it's basically, I have holes in my colon. And if something gets stuck in a hole, I can get staph infection and I can die. And it makes me really sick. And because of all the other problems, like my colon also swells from it's the IBD or whatever it is. So, I have all these issues going on, and people like, what fixed their Crohn's or what fixed their IBD or what fixed their diverticulosis doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to work for me. Everybody's got their own triggers, and they don't really understand some of these diseases. Go ahead. You were raising your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to raise my hand because I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking, Grim. I can definitely relate to that. I can't tell you how many people, well-meaning people, have come up to me and said, oh, did you hear about this MS medication? Most of the MS medications on the market nowadays, I'm beyond that already. There are different stages of MS. So people that are walking around, God bless them, they're great. And I'm really happy for them. I truly am, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But if you're walking around with MS, your medication is not going to work for me. My MS is more advanced. So it's like, yeah, I appreciate that, but that's not going to work. So yeah, I don't want to be rude though. That's the thing, but it's kind of like, I've been living with this for, 17 years. So I think I know, what works for me and what doesn't.
Yeah. Laura, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very similar to Jen that way, that, I have an immunodeficiency, and there's a lot of co-occurring disorders that go along with it because, my immune system isn't strong. I mean, I'm lacking a lot of the blood proteins that I need to be able to fight infections. And that's, it affects me systemically. So there's a lot of things that go along with that. And so everybody's thing is different depending on the person. And the thing that makes me the most crazy, and unfortunately this happens in the medical world 90% of the time, maybe more than that, is I go in and they say, okay, let's talk about how we need to address your autoimmune disease. I don't have an autoimmune disease. I have an immunodeficiency. There are two different things. An autoimmune disease is inflammatory. I'm not saying I don't have inflammation, because I do. And I'm not saying that there are not practices and tools and medications and all of that can be good approaches and helpful approaches for both illnesses. But it makes me crazy because I automatically get thrown into oh, you have an autoimmune disorder. No, I don't. I have something that I need to replace in my body versus my immune system flaring up at things. I'm lacking blood protein. I need to put it in, and it makes me crazy because they're viewing me through the wrong lens, and then I don't trust their feedback. Because I'm like, you don't
Right.
really know what's going on with me, you know?
Yeah, I
Right,
think
it's
there's
a
a lot
funny-
of us. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just gonna say, it's a funny thing that they really don't know much about what we're going through, but at the same time, they think they have the solution as if we don't. And also, it's almost kind of insulting. It's like, well, what do you think, we're stupid?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's been a big lesson on my journey as well, is learning to both listen to and trust myself, and it being okay that some people don't understand that I need to listen and trust to myself first. And because I went a long time with just literally doing everything that everybody else, medical community or not, told me to do without questioning it, without listening to that little voice in my head that said, Jess, I don't think you should be doing that. And I just did it. And so one of the things that I found, and where I'd like to ask you guys next, is about maybe how relationships have changed, both with yourself and with other people through what you've dealt with. Liz, have your relationships changed at all since you were since being an alcoholic, but also since becoming sober?
No, they stay the same. Of course, they've changed. So I'm being sarcastic. But they've changed enormously, and the reason they've changed is I've changed.
Yeah.
So what was acceptable to me before is no longer acceptable.
Mm.
So I've put up with things from people because it seemed the right thing to do, and that I'm a good girl, and that's what we do. And I've stopped doing that. There are sadly some relationships that I've had for a number of years, decades, that have fallen by the wayside since I've got sober. And that's because I have some very hard boundaries around my drinking, or lack thereof. And my number one priority each day is to remain sober. And if that's the only thing I achieve that day, I'm a happy bunny, because I get to live another day.
Mm.
So some people, not everybody agrees with that perspective, that, some people think it's okay to have one drink just because, if I've been sober, 6 years, surely you're okay now. Well, actually, no, darling, I'm not. So some relationships haven't stood the test of time, sadly. But I've created a whole new set of relationships and friendships, and a support network of like-minded fellows, where we have conversations and about sobriety, and it's fundamentally changed who I am. What mattered before isn't what matters now. Before it was about the latest handbag, the flash car, the nice pair of the rocking heels that went with the handbag. I don't give a damn about any of that stuff now. Material possessions mean nothing to me. It's about experiences, and it's about connection with people. So yeah, my relationships have changed hugely. And I think that's because the relationship with myself has changed.
Mm. I love that that was the first thing you said, is that of course my relationships have changed because I've changed. And I don't think that I've often thought about that myself. I don't think I've thought about that enough, in saying that, and it's not that the disease or illness has changed me in itself. It's how I process it. It's what my priorities are in my life now. And I can so relate to what Grim was saying about, if my son takes on a lot, and if he's exhausted and my husband's exhausted from work and I'm exhausted because I'm having a lot of pain today, dishes aren't getting done. Like, sorry, don't look at them. Don't come over. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just kind of like we do what we can do. But I find that as well with I need to think about that more, that the relationships haven't necessarily changed because there was something wrong with the relationship. It's just because I'm different, and my life is very different now than what it used to be. Beth, how have relationships changed for you throughout this process?
I would say I mean, I love what Liz said, how like, you know, your relationship has changed with yourself, you know, and like I just turned 38 in February. We both did, Jess. And I think it was that time where I'm like, okay, where I'm at in my life, I need this to change. I don't necessarily feel well. My body, I'm agitated all the time. Sometimes, you know, I'm, you know, eating my husband's head off, or I'm not having the patience that I wish I could have with my son, and because I'm just utterly exhausted at the end of the night, you know, and then having all the patience and giving out, you know, to other kids in the classroom and whatnot, I come home and just depleted. So I think in that capacity, relationships have changed, like where I changed. I just had to say, okay, well, I have to change the relationship with myself because I'm not liking what this disease is doing to me. It's giving me the anxiety, and it's giving me, you know, the irritability. And yes, I have to take, you know, particular drugs or whatnot, but what can I do? How can I work on myself so that I can have better relationships with others? Like, because I need a better relationship with myself. And so I just took that as a time from my birthday and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to start exercising. My goal, just to feel good, just to get the dopamine up, just to battle all of the side effects that come with the disease that you can't see. And people are like, oh yeah, you're working out, great. Well, yeah, I need to, because I need all that dopamine, because I have, you know, I don't have a thyroid anymore. I need to feel I need to feel that rush, you know, because it's either that or just continue to have caffeine and coffee all day, because I just feel like dropping on my butt because I don't have that energy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, looking at myself so that I can have better relationships with people.
Yeah. Jen, how important has communication been in your relationships throughout your illness?
It's been vital. As I had more and more progression in the MS, I have been able to do less and less for myself. For example, I can drive, but I need help getting in and out of the car. I need help with the wheelchair. So I'm no longer able to leave the house by myself. So that's something that's actually been the hardest thing about all of this, is that my independence is now gone.
I feel exactly. I just want to sister to sister with you on that, because that has been one of the hardest things for me, is when I had to stop driving a couple months ago. I just, there's something we take for granted, wanting to go get our favorite, just that whim that we get as amazing women, to hop in the car and go get our favorite pint of Ben and Jerry's from the grocery store and sit and watch a sappy movie. I can't hop in the car and do that anymore. I go out when my husband's home on Tuesdays and Sundays.
Exactly. And I'm fortunate. I'm sorry, what was that last thing you said?
It sucks. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where it just sucks, and there's no way around that. I have a lot of blessings in my life, though. Fortunately, this level of disability did not happen to me while the kids were little. That's another good thing. And my husband, he's a little bit older than I am. He's now retired. I actually turned 48 this month. So he gets to help me quite a bit, which is great. But if he doesn't go out, I don't go out. So yeah, I mean, that's every day doesn't have to be bad, though, I find. You know, there's so many blessings that I'm surrounded with every day, that even though I don't do the things I used to be able to do, there's still a lot I can do.
Yeah.
That's what I try to concentrate on. And yeah, there are times where I melt down. There are times where, you know, I yell, I cry, but I don't let it ruin my whole day, because I can't. Because I can't go down that slippery slope. I have that history of depression and anxiety, and I have, you know, I haven't really wanted to drink in a long time, but if I allow myself to go down that slippery slope, who knows, you know, before I start escaping into the booze again. So yeah, I cannot give in to that desire to just, you know, continually feel sorry for myself. Yes, I do a few moments of that, then I have to move on.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is really important, because I think that it's important you know, I laughed so hard when Beth was telling about, you know, that's the good cancer, you know, you're good kind of thing, because we know how important, whether we have a mental illness, an addiction, a physical illness, we know how important mindset is. Raise your hand if you know how important your mindset is. Like, we know how important mindset is. Yes. And so it is important for us to be in that space of joy and of goodness and of surrounding ourselves with good and of hope and of faith and all of that. But it is just as important for us to be human for 5 minutes and recognize that sometimes it sucks, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes we're in pain, and sometimes people don't understand, and sometimes to have to come on camera like this and you know, I'm excited because I didn't shake long enough this morning to paint my nails like that. Like, I haven't, like, just to celebrate those little things. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's the little things, definitely. But it's also, I totally agree with what we've been talking about before. Sometimes it just sucks, and we just have to acknowledge that, because we're human beings.
Yeah.
You know, if I were to try to stuff all that down, I would just probably explode one day, and that's not going to be healthy for me or anybody around me. So I try to be as honest and forthright as I can with everybody around me, because you talked about relationships. I think, if anything, my relationship with my husband has probably gotten stronger over the years. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm also grateful to have, you know, gotten sober in, you know, a 12-step program. And I haven't been to, you know, one of those meetings in a long time, but I still remember what I came through was basically just, you know, keeping my side of the street clean. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And, you know, I apologize. I make amends where necessary. And that stuff is just so important. And I don't know, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent. I apologize. I just get so excited about, like, everything that's going on.
Sometimes we do that.
Like, yeah.
There are squirrels everywhere. It happens.
I think that's what, I just went squirrely. I think that's what happened.
That's what I'm here.
So if you have anything chronic, you also have occasional bouts of brain fog, and there's just nothing you can do about it. It just comes with it, and you just go, never mind.
That's it, Grim. It's like, okay, it's gone. My brain has taken a vacation.
They're in the refrigerator. Oh, okay.
Last Friday, when we had Blake on the breakthrough and Heather came on as panelist that day, if you guys watched the beginning of that episode, I could not think what Heather was. I was like, our very special
what she does.
our guest Heather, and then it was finally like panelist, that's what Heather, and I'm like, this is my show, what happened here?
It happens, man. It happens.
And that's been, you know, I think sometimes when we're juggling all these things, being a human being is hard enough, and then we have children, and we have spouses, and we have businesses, and we have these things that we're dealing with physically and emotionally and spiritually, and sometimes I can remember all the songs that we used to sing back in high school, but I have zero idea why I just walked into the kitchen. None. Like, it's gone. No idea. It's just the way it is.
That reminds me, long story short, we got a record player. Okay. I'm a Gen Xer, so I love my albums. And I was so excited. I mean, I literally haven't seen these albums in 30 years. And I remember all the songs. But what did I do 10 minutes ago? I'm not sure I can tell you.
Yeah.
We recorded it. You're good.
Yes.
Good point, Grim.
That is one of the great benefits, I think, to doing shows and doing video, is that you know, if we forgot what we talked about, there's always the replay. There's that. So it's a good thing. I want to really quickly, because we've been chatting about an hour, and I really hope that those of you who are listening to this conversation, whether you've been live with us or on the replay, that there have been moments that you've been able to say, me too. And that there have been moments that you've been able to say, not me, but this helps me understand someone that I love. And I hope that there have been moments where you've learned something about, you know, what it's like to live with these different things. I want to finish up by going around and sharing a little something that we're doing to not just survive in our lives, but to thrive. What is something that we're doing to that helps us be in our best selves, even on our worst days? Laura, you want to start us off? Some little tips and tricks of what you're doing.
So, okay, I have to think. There've been a lot of bad days lately. So
yeah, I feel you.
What do I do? I would say meditation and my music is one thing, and it's meditative music, right? It's not like I'm listening to like, rock star rocking out.
I do that too, though. That's very therapeutic. I'm just saying.
Sometimes I have my angry songs, but
a little Rage Against the Machine when you're pissed off is good for the soul. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I definitely have angry songs, but like when I'm trying to thrive, I usually start with I'll play my nice meditative music. I'll take an Epsom salt bath with my oils, right? And then I'll go outside, because just being grounded, being in the fresh air, and honestly, being able to share the things that I'm learning and the insights that come through when I am not feeling well, because there's always wisdom in what my body is telling me when I'm feeling crappy. And so taking that wisdom and teaching that to others, sharing it with others, really lifts me and makes me feel like, I'm helping other people that might be earlier on the path than me. So maybe they won't get to as bad as I have been from time to time. But I also think just when I am saying my affirmations or spending that time with myself, not doing it from an obligatory place. Not saying, well, I have to do this because I have to feel better, like I'm desperate to feel better, but doing it from a place of I am embracing myself. I love myself so much that I just need to, it's like giving myself a big hug and saying, I love you, I love me, and I'm getting you there.
Yeah, I love that. Beth, what are you doing to thrive these days?
So basically, I have really utilized this past few months of just getting into personal development and just changing the way I think. I mean, I've just been listening to podcasts and Rachel Hollis and Mel Robbins and Brendan Bouchard and Renee Brown, and kind of the teacher in me has come up with my own curriculum for myself just to change how I feel and how I want to live day in and day out. So, I get up in the morning and I think instead of living and just being reactive to my day and everything is going around me, I'm trying to be proactive. I get up in the morning, I journal, I have a gratitude journal, and I write, 10 things down I'm grateful for. Because when you're in a state of gratitude, it's hard to feel anything else. It's hard to feel the frustration. It's hard to feel the anxiety. And I set my intention for the day. How do I want to be today? How do I want to come across? I want to be someone that's, a loving mother as best as I can. I want to have, a connecting relationship with my husband. So I want to be there for my students. So just basically being proactive, having that intention. And if, today is my last day, what would the perfect day be? How do I want that? Visualize it. I agree with meditation. There's so many times where I visualized, okay, this is how I'm going to feel in this moment when I've accomplished this. And it's come across I started this and I had mentioned Mel Robbins, and honestly, I read one of her books. I'm like, oh, who's this? Oh, okay, great. Awesome. And then she just came out with a show in New York. And then I just wrote an email in, and then I got a call from assistant producer. And I'm telling you, when you're throwing this out there into the universe and you are really controlling the way you think and being intent, they're like, oh, we'd like to have you on our show. I'm like, really? Great. So I was on her show. I was just on her show last week. But I mean, and here's this book. I'm reading it. I'm changing the way I'm thinking. I'm getting rid of those negative habit loops that we all like find ourselves in, and it's not easy. And I think it's just, trying to be present in the moment. But I think like what you said before, you have to allow yourself to say, okay, you know what, this moment sucks right now, but just being like, even if it's sucking right now, you just have to be present in that moment to allow yourself to feel all of those feelings so that you can come out of it and say, okay, well, this is where I'm at, but this is where I want to be. And this is what, I'm doing the very best that I can with everything that I have right now to be the person that I want to be. So I would say mindset, number one thing to get me through.
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. I'm trying to hold myself together here.
That was tangent everywhere, but yeah.
No, it's so good. It's so good. And there's something really good about seeing where you and I came from and what we've dealt with and where we are now. It's good. All right, Grim, give us something good so I can stop crying.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to help with that because you know what I was like when you first met me. That was not long after my diagnosis. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't still be online. I'd been done. Because everything was negative. Everything was negative. I was done with it all. And I mean, you have to understand, prior to, I was a mean, angry person anyway. I mean, it's true. I mean, and that's who I was, and I was okay with that. I was okay with being the mean, angry person. I was cold. That's why my kids had to learn how to do stuff for themselves. I made them do stuff. I was like living in a military camp or some shit, And the other day, shit was crazy. Door been open all day long. 8 hours these workers been here. Everything's going to crap. My stomach was upset. I was having a horrible day. We go out back. The dog sits down in a damn glue trap. She's running around the backyard with a glue trap on her. I just sat down and laughed. You dumbass dog. Thank you for the icing on my cake. I said, you know what? That's all I can do. And so I have to go and say, well, at least it was funny. The dog was running around chasing her own ass, and all I could do is say, well, I got to see the positive of it. And that's what I do now. I look for, well, that's all the good that's coming out of that, but at least I got that.
And that was not you a couple years ago. That was not you. And it's so crazy to hear you even say that out loud. Like it's such a good thing. It's a good thing. And
I'd been ready to sell the dog 2 years ago. No, I've had enough. This is it. The dog's gone. Open the front door. Get her the hell out of here. I've had enough shit today. No, I would have I'd have been done. The kids would have come home devastated. The dog is gone. Yeah. And I was like, your dog's all sticky. Here you go.
I love the turnaround that you've had and to just find something positive, even when the dog sits on a glue trap.
I know, right?
All right.
You just got to look at it. And that's my thing is is it funny? Is it positive? What's the best that can come out of this? And just roll with it, because I can't stay negative anymore. That was killing me. It literally was. It's stress that triggers my stuff. You know how stressful it is to be like an angry, mad person, and you go to the doctor and they go, look, the hat's coming off. It's getting serious. So I go to the doctor.
Let me take my earrings off too.
There you go. So I go to the doctor and they're like, you need to reduce your stress. And you're like, I'm going to chunk this phone at your... Reduce my stress. Are you coming home to live with me?
Yes.
Are you insane? That's the worst advice you can ever give somebody.
That's as good as when you have a baby and the doctors tell you, like if you have a baby and you have something going on after and they tell you don't lift the baby. How does that work? Are you going to come home and do that for me? Like, how does that work exactly? I'm so confused, but yes,
That's my husband on medication. He says, this says not to lift heavy machinery. I'm 400 pounds. I can't lift myself. I'm laying on the couch all day. He said, I am heavy machinery. I can't move today.
All right. Well, I love the positive thinking aspect of it, and I think that that's so important in what you are doing with your physical and emotional health. Jen, tell us how you are thriving.
I think I mentioned it before. It's acknowledging when it sucks, but then moving on. There's so much in life that is good. So many gifts that we're given every day. If we look hard enough, we will find those gifts. So don't let a bad moment determine your entire day.
Mm.
Don't get to the point where you're just like, well, I give up.
Mm.
You know, there's so much, you know, I'm sitting here in a wheelchair and I'm telling you there's so much to be grateful for, because there is.
I love it. Gratitude is so important. And I think that that's something that we need to be practicing, whether it's a good day or a bad day. And, you know, the gratitude and the prayer and all of that we do in our spiritual lives is so important. Good day, bad day, in between day, we do it no matter what day. Liz, how are you thriving these days?
I think several things, and you ladies have covered so much of it. You know, prayer. I would love to say I meditate. I can't. I fall asleep. Gratitude, but for me, it's about finding the joy. I didn't laugh before. I'm blessed today that I'm actually able to laugh, and I'm able to laugh at myself. I have the utmost respect for my disease, but I try not to take myself so seriously. And I make a ton of mistakes every single day, but today I don't beat myself up for them. And I try and laugh at myself, and I find humor in any situation I can find it in, because if I'm not having fun, even on my darkest days, I can find a moment of fun. Something stupid happens, something on the television happens, you know, I read something. I have to find the joy. And if I'm finding the joy, I'm okay.
I love that. I love it. Joy was my word of the year last year. And I love how when we choose a word of the year, it sort of presents itself as opportunity to find that word. This year I chose simplicity, and I'm regretting that every moment of the day. But for me, I think some really important things for me have been definitely laughing. I've been big into watching comedy things lately, and I laugh at everything. Like, even like Grim was talking about, when everything goes wrong, I am literally the crazy person sitting there busting up laughing. I think everything's funny now, because sometimes you have nothing else. You just laugh. So I laugh a lot. And I think like Beth was talking about, living in the moment of what it is right now. What does this look like right now, and what's the best that I can do with what I have in this moment? Gratitude, like Jen was saying, is a big part of my practice. Meditation, like Laura was saying, is a big part of my practice. Grim talked about being positive. I try very, very hard to stay in that space of finding the something in this moment that is good and joyful. And I think that one of the biggest things for me of how I'm thriving, and I mentioned this briefly earlier, is being my own advocate, speaking up for myself and how I feel, and knowing that I know better about my body than anybody with a degree. Anybody with their own experiences, I know about me. And that's something that really has just in the last year come to, and something that I have to be mindful of and work on every single moment, because I even found myself with my brand new, holistic naturopath a couple months ago, getting in that same spot of just doing what she told me to do without questioning it, without listening to myself. And I think that that's the best thing that you can do for yourself, whether you're dealing with physical, emotional, addiction, any of that stuff, to listen to yourself and advocate for what you believe to be right for you, regardless of what anybody else in a white coat tells you to do. You've got to listen to yourself first and foremost. And so that's what I'm doing, is advocating for myself and speaking up for myself, and also spending time with amazing people like all of these women that you see on the screen today, who are in my opinion warriors, and we're just doing what we can do every single day with what we have. And I want to finish today's show with reading something to you guys, which I leave nothing's coincidence anymore. And this popped up on my news feed about an hour before we went live. And it's a poem called The Warrior, and I will post who wrote it and everything in the comments, because it's not there. I can rap you something from 1992, but I have no idea who wrote this, so because I saw it 10 minutes ago. But I want to leave this with everybody who's here with me right now, and everybody who is dealing with the unseen stuff in your own life. When the world is on your shoulders and your heart feels full of lead, and your stomach churns like butter, and the voice inside your head is reminding you of everything you've ever said and done, all your failures and regrets, all the times your fear has won. Take a minute to remember that you've survived all this before. You've battled and you've conquered when you thought you had no more. You are stronger than you realize. You are brave and wise and kind. And you know you're so much bigger than the doubts that fill your mind. So breathe it in, then let it out. Allow the ebb and flow. You can win this war. You always do. You're a warrior, you know. So that's what I want to leave you guys today. Thank you, Grim and Beth and Liz and Laura and Jen, for joining me today for this conversation. We may have another one like it in the future. It's good to just sit as ladies and have a discussion and talk about the things that we're dealing with, and not just on the I'm dealing with this and it sucks side, but this is what I'm doing to make it better and get through side of things as well. I appreciate all of you who have taken the time to watch or listen to the show today. I'm going to make sure that wherever these ladies are, if you want to connect with them, it will be on the website, it will be in the comments of the video on Facebook, and you'll be able to connect with them as well there. And I want to give you a little bit of insight really quickly before we go on the breakthrough. So as I've mentioned throughout the show, I kind of have had to do things lately when I can do them. And that's really difficult for me, because I'm a planner, damn it. I'm a planner and I'm a scheduler, and I have to have, I am not the go with the flow person I thought I was at one time. And I've had to learn that interesting, fun lesson myself. But the breakthrough is going to be showing up on your news feed when the breakthrough shows up from here on out. In addition, we have some fun things coming to the breakthrough page. We have some new shows that are starting. The breakthrough is becoming sort of a little mini network, not a big thing, but a little mini thing where we'll have more videos. And I encourage you as well to, if you're not a part of it, to join our After the Breakthrough community. You can find it at patreon.com/afterthebreakthrough, because we have a lot of deeper conversation in there. I come on after the lives and do afterthoughts with Jessica to say all the things that my rambling self wants to say that I didn't get to say during the show. And we have master classes in there, and it's a close community of people who love the breakthrough and are doing what all of us here are doing, growing ourselves, growing our businesses, just trying to live our best lives. And so I encourage you to join us in there and tune in to all of the fun things that the breakthrough has has in store. And one of these days, perhaps we'll get back to the Friday schedule. For now, you'll get it when you get it, and it'll be amazing, and it'll be great. So that's what I'm going with. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today. Thank all of you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on another episode of The Breakthrough. Bye, everybody.